Hello friends, my name is Emile and welcome back to some more Forza Horizon 3. Today we are taking a look at another DLC pack. This time it is the Mountain Dew car pack, also known as the June DLC. This is just dropped for Forza Horizon 3. It is available for £5.59 or your regional equivalent and contains 7 cars as usual. Let's go take a look at what those 7 cars are. We start with the 1973 AMC Gremlin X, 150 horsepower, 245 foot-pound of torque, 2,840 pounds of weight. This is a D-Class car, 371 in PI. It is front-engined and a rear-wheel drive. The AMC Gremlin is a rather interesting vehicle. I believe, as far as I can tell, this is America's first ever compact car. At least that's what it said on a documentary that I was watching about the Pacer a while back. It's a pretty cool thing. It has a 5-litre V8 in the front. It doesn't weigh a whole lot, and for American standards, especially at the time, it's quite a small car. So already it's pretty mental, and I would gather you could probably make this thing even more mental with some certain engine swaps that you can likely put into the Gremlin. I am very happy to see this car in the game. Now that we have the Pacer and we have the Gremlin as well, you know, that's my 2 perfect AMC vehicles brought into the game. I would kind of like a Ford Pinto secretly, but yeah, pretty cool vehicle, and it should be a lot of fun to play around with. Equally as fun to play around with probably is the 1971 Chevrolet Vega GT, 110 horsepower, 158 foot-pound of torque, 2,230 pounds of weight, a D-Class car, 397 in PI. It is front-engined and a rear-wheel drive. Kind of similar to the Gremlin in sort of a more budget compact car. I don't really know much about the Vega. I've heard its name before. I want to say this thing is either really popular in Mexico or Australia. I'm not sure, it's one of the two. Statistically, and the fact that it's in classic muscle leads me to believe this is kind of like a sort of compact sports car from the 70s, kind of like maybe an Opel GT or something like that. Kind of similar to the Gremlin, you know, there should be a couple of engine swaps that you can probably chuck into this thing and make it a barrel of laughs to drive. As it stands from stock though, I can't imagine it can be much fun. Next up, a rather controversial car, I would imagine, is the 2013 Dodge Dart GT, 184 horsepower, 171 foot-pound of torque, 3,296 pounds of weight. C-Class car, 567 in PI. It is front-engined and front-wheel drive. This really is the ultimate economy car of the pack. I can imagine a lot of people are quite angry about this one, but secretly I really like this. Basically, it's so different from your usual fare of supercars, classic muscle cars, and so on and so forth, because this is just a normal, everyday car that you can drive here in Horizon 3, and I'd love to see more vehicles like this added, you know, your sort of standard compacts and so on and so forth. Whether it'll be fun to drive or not, I'm not too sure. What I can say is I'm very interested to drive it, which you wouldn't really expect to say about the Dodge Dart. Personally, I kind of like the Dodge Dart. It's sort of like a secret sort of, what's the word? I can't remember the word I'm looking for. I used it on the last take and I don't know what it is. But yeah, a guilty pleasure, there you go. I kind of like the Dodge Dart. I wish it wasn't called the Dart, because the Dart is a silly name for it. If it was called the Neon or something, though, I'd really like this car. And I kind of like the way it looks and stuff, so I'm very curious to see what this is like to drive. Equally as curious as I am to drive the Dart, I am to drive the 1996 Ferrari F50 GT, which I don't think anyone's ever said that, ever. 750 horsepower, 383 foot-pound of torque, 2,002 pounds of weight, S2 class car, 990 PI. It is mid-engined and a rear-wheel drive. You heard me right, S2 990. As far as I can work out, this is one of the highest starting PI cars in the game. The only thing I can really think that tops it is the Koenigsegg 1-to-1. Yeah, the F50 GT is rather mental. We've been calling for this thing ever since back in Horizon 1. The F50 GT, it's a bit of a sad story in real life. This car never really got to race, but in-game it's anything but. It looks absolutely phenomenal. I love the way the standard F50 looks, and the GT just looks really very, very cool as well. It will make an absolutely orgasmic noise. It's going to be super quick, super fun to drive, I'd imagine, and I can't wait to give this one a go, particularly for Reach the Peak. I'm slightly curious to see how this thing does in the snow. Hopefully it has snow tyres. The complete opposite of the Ferrari F50 GT is this, though, the 1951 Holden FX Sedan, 60 horsepower, 99 foot-pound of torque, 2,231 pounds of weight, D-Class car, 100 PI, which means if you see 100 in a PI, that actually means that the car isn't actually quick enough to reach a PI figure, so the game just defaults it to 100. It is front-engined and rear-wheel drive. If I'm being honest, this is probably for me my least favourite car in the pack. It's just not incredibly exciting to me, you know. Most of these Australian cars aren't really, and this one especially, you know, it's just slow. As far as I can work out, this is the sedan version of the Ute barn find that's already in the game. So, yeah, I mean, the Ute's kind of fun, but, I mean, you can put a V12 in it, probably, and it will be fun, but really that's where the appeal of this car dies. You know, there isn't really much you can realistically do with the FX Sedan, and that's why, for me personally, it is probably the weakest offering in this pack. Next up, far from the weakest, is the 2016 Lotus 311, 410 horsepower, 308 foot-pound of torque, 2,103 pounds of weight, S1 class car, 871 MPI. It is mid-engined and a rear-wheel drive. I am very curious about this car. Out of all the cars in this pack, this is probably the one I'm most curious to drive. The Lotus 211 that we had in the game already is a fantastic handling car, and the sort of standard 11 is also a pretty cool handling thing as well. So I'm kind of I'm kind of curious to see what the next evolution of the 11 has to offer. This thing has a lot more power than I thought it would as well. I believe this is probably going to be running some form of a Vora engine. I see sort of that displacement and the power figures, and that seems about right to me. Which is... That's more than I was expecting. People were worried that this car wouldn't have the straight line speed and it'd just be a handling car, especially with that higher starting PI. They was wondering whether it'd get left in the dust. I don't think it will with that. That's a hell of a power to weight ratio. Can't wait to test this against the other track cars in the game. It should be a lot of fun. And finally today, the 1995 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX, 210 horsepower, 214 foot-pound of torque, 3,199 pounds of weight, C-Class car, 583 MPI. It is front-engined, all-wheel drive. The Eclipse, gotta be honest, I'm not a fan of the Mitsubishi Eclipse. I appreciate this is probably the more popular of some of the cars in this pack. I think the F50 GT is probably the most popular car in this pack. But the Eclipse probably isn't too far behind. I know a lot of people like the Mitsubishi Eclipse. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this. But for me personally, I've just never really liked the first gen Eclipses. My favourite Eclipse is the last gen, which I know is a rather controversial thing to say. You know, yeah, I know it was in Fast and Furious and people like this car from Need for Speed Underground and so on. But for me personally, it just isn't my sort of car. It has got some body mods to it. You can make this thing look absolutely stupid if you want to, and that's probably where the appeal of this car is going to be for me, but yeah, personally I just don't see myself using the Eclipse that much. Anyways, and that is a rundown of this pack. Overall, pretty average pack. You know, not the best, not the worst. There are quite a few interesting cars in here. I like the 311, the F50 GT, and the Gremlin. They're probably my favourite cars in this pack. With the Dart and the Vega probably being, you know, my pretty cool cars. I'll probably drive them once or twice. And the Eclipse and the FX Sedan for me are probably my least favourite cars of the pack. Feel free to tell me down below what your favourite car of the pack is and whether you are going to be purchasing this pack or not. And thank you all very much for watching. Mine has been the real Emile, and until next time, a farewell.